My wife had no idea I was earning $1.5 million a year when she snapped, "You useless mess! I've already filed for divorce. Get out of my house tomorrow." "You pathetic waste of space," Isabel said, sliding the manila envelope across our kitchen island like she was serving me eviction papers. "I've already filed for divorce. You have until Friday to get out of my house." I looked up from my laptop. The hospital wristband from my annual physical that morning was still cutting into my skin, a reminder I needed to remove it, along from apparently myself from this marriage. "Friday," I repeated. "That's 2 days." She crossed her arms, designer workout clothes, hugging a body maintained by a personal trainer I'd apparently been funding without realizing it. "My house, my name on the deed. You contribute nothing to this marriage except your mediocre existence and your embarrassing work-from-home setup." I glanced at my laptop, at the Bloomberg terminal minimized behind my email, at the Slack messages from my team at Meridian Capital Partners, waiting for my input on a $340 million acquisition. "Understood," I said quietly. Isabel blinked. She'd been prepared for begging, for tears, for the pathetic display she'd probably rehearsed rejecting. "Good." She tossed her blonde hair, freshly highlighted at a salon that charged $600 per session. "My lawyer says you'll get exactly what you deserve in the settlement, which is nothing." I stood up, closed my laptop, and walked to the guest bedroom where I'd been sleeping for the past 8 months. That night, I made 4 calls. First, to Harrison Caldwell, my attorney. 23 years practicing family law, senior partner at Caldwell & Associates, the kind of lawyer who'd once made a cheating spouse cry on the witness stand. Second, to Rebecca Torres, my CFO at Meridian Capital, because my compensation package had strict confidentiality clauses, and I needed to understand exactly what could be disclosed and when. Third, to my accountant, Philip Zhao, to freeze joint access to anything connected to my actual income. Fourth, to Marcus Webb, a private investigator who'd helped our firm with due diligence on dozens of acquisitions. Isabel was right about one thing. Her name was on the deed, but she had no idea whose money had paid the $580,000 down payment 3 years ago. I'd met Isabel Chen 6 years earlier at a charity gala in Manhattan. She was 29, working in luxury real estate, stunning in a way that made me forget I'd sworn off dating after my previous relationship imploded. I was 33, recently promoted to managing director at Meridian Capital Partners, pulling down $850,000 annually, plus performance bonuses that regularly doubled that figure. But I showed up to the gala in an off-the-rack suit and spent most of the evening by the open bar, avoiding the social climbers. "You look as uncomfortable as I feel," she'd said, materializing beside me with champagne in hand. We talked for 2 hours, about architecture, about the absurdity of paying $500 per plate for rubber chicken, about her dream of opening her own boutique real estate firm. She told me she was tired of the finance bros who treated women like trophies, that she wanted someone genuine, real, unimpressed by status. I'd liked that. When she asked what I did, I said, "Investment analysis. Pretty boring stuff, honestly. Not technically a lie. Just incomplete." We dated for 14 months before I proposed. She moved into my modest 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, never questioning why I lived so far below my apparent means. I told her I was saving for our future, and she'd smiled like that was the sweetest thing she'd ever heard. The wedding was small. Her family, my brother, a few college friends. I paid for everything in cash, telling her I'd been saving aggressively. She didn't ask questions. For the first 2 years, things worked. She built her boutique agency. I worked from home 3 days a week, traveled for deals the other 2. We had date nights, weekend trips to the Hamptons, a life that looked comfortable but not extravagant. Then her business took off. She closed a $12 million penthouse sale, then another. Within 18 months, she was pulling down $400,000 annually in commissions, and everything changed. "We should upgrade the apartment," she'd said one evening, scrolling through luxury listings. "I'm embarrassed to bring clients home." "This place is fine," I'd replied. She'd looked at me like I'd suggested we move into a cardboard box. "Fine? Nathan, I'm closing multi-million-dollar deals and we live in a Brooklyn rental. What does that say about my brand?" Her brand. Not our life, her brand. 6 months later, she found the house in Westchester. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, chef's kitchen, home office, the works. Listed at $1.8 million. "I can negotiate it down to $1.6 million, she'd said, eyes bright with the thrill of the hunt. "It's perfect. And I can write it off as a business expense since I'll use the office for client meetings. That's a significant mortgage," I'd said carefully. "Nathan, I make good money now. I can handle it." But she couldn't. Not really. Even with her commissions, the down payment was out of reach. So I'd quietly wired $580,000 from my Meridian Capital compensation account into our joint account, then immediately into escrow. Told her I'd been investing on the side and had some savings. She'd kissed me and called me her secret genius. The house went into her name alone, for tax purposes, she'd explained. Her accountant's advice. I'd let it happened because I didn't care about whose name was on paper. We were married. It was ours. I was wrong about what ours meant to her. The contempt started small. Why are you always in sweatpants? She'd ask when I was working from home. It's 3 in the afternoon. I'm on video calls all day, I'd say. No one sees below the waist. Still, it's lazy. Then, my clients are asking what my husband does. What am I supposed to say? That you work from home doing what exactly? Investment analysis. That's so vague, Nathan. It sounds made up. The criticisms escalated. My work was boring. My hobbies were juvenile. My friends were towny losers from college who hadn't amounted to anything. 8 months ago, I'd moved to the guest bedroom after she told me I was killing her attraction with my complete lack of ambition. I'd been managing a $2.4 billion portfolio at the time. 3 months ago, I started noticing the signs. Late nights at the office. New lingerie in her drawer that I'd never seen her wear. Her phone face down on every surface. The way she angled away from me when texting. I'd asked Marcus Webb to look into it, quietly, professionally. He'd confirmed it within a week. Damian Cortez, 38, hedge fund manager, drove a Porsche 911, owned a condo in Tribeca. Everything Isabel apparently thought she deserved. They'd been seeing each other for 7 months. I'd sat with that information for weeks, trying to decide what to do with it. Part of me wanted to confront her. Part of me wanted to just let her go. Then she'd thrown those divorce papers at me and called me pathetic. Decision made. At 7:23 a.m. on Thursday morning, Isabel banged on the guest bedroom door. I meant Friday, she snapped. That's tomorrow. You need to start packing. I opened the door halfway. I was already dressed. Tom Ford suit, Hermes tie, Berluti shoes. The uniform I wore for investor presentations. Her eyes widened slightly. Where are you going? Work. You work from home. Not today. Board meeting in the city. She blinked. Board meeting? I picked up my Toomey briefcase, the one piece of obvious luxury I owned. I'll be back late. We can discuss logistics this weekend. There's nothing to discuss, she said. You're leaving. That's it. I almost smiled. Because I had options. I just hadn't exercised them yet. The board meeting at Meridian Capital's Midtown office lasted 3 hours. We finalized the acquisition of a European tech startup, approved Q3 bonuses, and discussed expansion into Asian markets. My cut of the recent deal closures, $847,000. After the meeting, Rebecca Torres pulled me aside in the glass-walled conference room overlooking Bryant Park. Nathan, she said carefully, HR flagged some unusual activity on your compensation account. Large wire transfer to a personal account 3 years ago. Standard audit stuff, but given your situation, I wanted to give you a heads up. The house down payment. Yes, it's documented, legitimate, but if your wife's lawyer starts digging, let them dig, I said. Harrison's already pulled the records. That money is traceable, verifiable, marital asset acquired with my funds. Rebecca adjusted her glasses. Does she know about Meridian? She knows I work in investment analysis. Does she know you're a managing director with a $1.5 million annual compensation package? No. Her eyebrows rose. Nathan, I wanted a partner, not a dependent, I said. And I wanted to know that someone loved me for me, not for what I could provide. Rebecca's expression softened. And she's divorcing me because she thinks I'm a low-earning failure living off her success. She stopped. Actually, that's perfect for your case. Harrison must be salivating. He used the phrase slam dunk. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. Isabel's name flashed on the screen. Her voice wasn't the one that had called me pathetic 48 hours earlier. It was thin, confused, panicked. We need to talk, she said. Right now. I leaned back in the chair of my luxury hotel suite, the Conrad, $600 per night, because I'd decided I was done living down to her expectations. No, I said calmly. Nathan, they froze the accounts. Her breathing was ragged. All of them. My checking, my credit cards, even the joint account, and there are people at the house. I stayed silent. The bank called saying the mortgage payment bounced. That can't be right. It's on autopay from the joint account, but they're saying the account has a legal hold. Her voice cracked. And there's a security guard at the door with papers saying I need to vacate for a property assessment. What did you do? Isabel, I said softly. Remember when you called it your house? It is my house. My name is on the deed. And whose money paid the down payment? Silence. You gave me money once, she said carefully. From your savings. That wasn't savings, I said. That was my compensation. She laughed, sharp, disbelieving. Compensation? Nathan, you work from home in sweatpants analyzing stocks or whatever. You're not. I'm a managing director at Meridian Capital Partners, I interrupted. My base salary is $750,000. My performance bonuses last year were $680,000. This year they'll be higher. The line went dead silent. Then Isabel exhaled. That's not funny. It's not a joke. Harrison can provide documentation if you'd like. Tax returns, W-2s, employment contracts. Her voice came out small. Why didn't you tell me? Because you didn't need to know, I said. And because I wanted to see if you could love someone you thought was ordinary. Turns out you couldn't. Isabel's pride fought back through the panic. If you had that kind of money, why did you live like that? Because I could, I said. And because it kept me safe. People change around found money, Isabel. You proved that. Her breathing turned frantic. Okay, we can fix this. I didn't mean what I said. I was frustrated with work. I was stressed. No, I cut her off. You meant it. You called me pathetic. A waste of space. You told me I contribute nothing. Harrison Caldwell slid a document across the hotel suite's desk. Temporary restraining order and notice of exclusive occupancy. Isabel's voice dropped to a whisper. Nathan, please, tell them to leave. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. Pack your bags, I said calmly, because you're the one leaving. She made a choking sound. I'm not leaving my house. It's not your house, I said. It's marital property acquired with my funds, fully documented, traceable wire transfer from my Meridian compensation account, and your demand that I get out by Friday? Harrison says that helps my case tremendously. You can't just throw me out. That's illegal. I'm not throwing you out. A judge is. Silence. What? Harrison filed for temporary exclusive occupancy this morning based on verbal abuse, financial misconduct, and attempted illegal eviction. Your text messages are Exhibit A through F. What text messages? The ones where you told me to crawl back to whatever pathetic existence I came from. The ones where you called me a mediocre leech. Should I continue? Another long silence. In the background, I heard professional voices, someone speaking near her phone. Ma'am, you need to step outside. This is a court order. You have 2 hours to collect personal belongings. Isabel's voice cracked. They're taking pictures. They said my business might have used the house as collateral for something. Nathan, what's happening? Harrison made a note. If she'd mixed personal and business finances, commingled assets, we could dig much deeper. Isabel, I said, did you ever put the house under your LLC? She stammered. My accountant suggested it for tax purposes. There it was. Harrison took my phone. Ms. Chen, this is Harrison Caldwell, Mr. Morgan's attorney. You've been served with a temporary restraining order and notice of exclusive occupancy. Any interference will be considered contempt of court. I suggest you contact your attorney immediately. Isabel sounded like she was crying. Harrison, please, we can talk about this. I'll apologize. I didn't mean. He handed the phone back to me. I didn't gloat. I didn't yell. Isabel, I said, you can't call someone pathetic for 6 years and then beg for mercy when you realize they were holding everything together. She was quiet. Is there any way to stop this? She whispered. I thought about the hospital wristband I'd finally removed. The annual physical, where my doctor had warned me about stress-related hypertension. The 8 months sleeping in the guest bedroom. The way she'd looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. No, I said simply. But I'll be fair. You'll get what the law says you deserve, not what you demanded. I ended the call. My phone immediately buzzed with texts. Isabel, please, I didn't know. Isabel, we can fix this. I love you. Isabel, Nathan, answer me. I deleted them and looked at Harrison. The judge signed the order, he said. She has 90 minutes to collect essentials. Full eviction enforcement on Monday if she doesn't comply. Marcus Webb's report arrived that evening via encrypted email. The private investigator had been thorough. Photographs of Isabel and Damian Cortez at 5-star restaurants. Hotel check-ins at the Plaza, the St. Regis, the Greenwich. Credit card statements showing charges to lingerie boutiques, spa packages, weekend trips to Miami and Napa, all paid for with the joint credit card. My credit card. Financial infidelity, Harrison said, reviewing the documents in my hotel suite. She's been funding an affair with marital assets. This gets better and better. He pulled up another file. We also found something interesting. Your wife's boutique real estate firm? It's underwater. She owes $180,000 in business debts. Unpaid office rent, vendor contracts, payroll taxes. She's been using personal funds, your personal funds via the joint account, to keep it afloat. My stomach dropped. How much? In the past 18 months? Approximately $240,000 transferred from joint accounts to her business LLC, without your knowledge or consent. That's fraud, Harrison finished. Conversion of marital assets. We can pursue criminal charges if you want, but it'll be more effective as leverage in the divorce proceedings. He leaned forward. Nathan, I need to be clear about something. You have an extraordinarily strong case, documented income, proof of asset acquisition, evidence of her affair, evidence of financial misconduct. But if we go nuclear, if we pursue every angle, she'll be financially destroyed. Is that what you want? I looked out at the Manhattan skyline. 6 years. I'd spent 6 years being made to feel small, inadequate, boring, by a woman who was secretly bankrupt, having an affair, and stealing from me to fund both. I want the truth, I said. I want a judge to see exactly who we both are. Harrison smiled. Then let's give them a show. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following Thursday at 9 a.m. in Westchester County Family Court. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. 26 years on the bench. Former prosecutor. Reputation for cutting through bullshit with surgical precision. Isabel arrived with her attorney, Douglas Brennan. Mid-50s. Expensive suit. The kind of divorce lawyer who advertised on billboards claiming to protect successful women from deadbeat husbands. They saw me sitting with Harrison and their expressions shifted. I was wearing a Brioni suit that cost $6,000. My Patek Philippe watch caught the courtroom courtroom's fluorescent lights. Harrison had insisted I look the part. "Dress like who you actually are," he'd said. "Make them see what she threw away." Douglas Brennan leaned over and whispered something to Isabel. Her face went pale. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Judge Morrison entered, took her seat, and opened the file with the enthusiasm of someone who'd seen 10,000 divorces and expected nothing new. She was wrong. "Mr. Caldwell," Judge Morrison said, "you've filed for emergency exclusive occupancy and asset freeze. That's aggressive for a preliminary hearing. Explain." Harrison stood. "Your Honor, this case involves significant financial misconduct, documented infidelity, and attempted illegal eviction. My client has been subjected to sustained verbal abuse and has only recently discovered the extent of his wife's financial impropriety." Douglas Brennan stood. "Your Honor, this is absurd. My client owns the marital home. Her name is on the deed. Mr. Morgan has been unemployed or underemployed for years and has contributed minimally to the household." "Objection," Harrison said calmly. "Factually incorrect and easily disproven." Judge Morrison looked up. "Disproven how?" Harrison approached the bench with a folder. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit Exhibits A through K, Mr. Morgan's employment contracts, tax returns, and compensation statements for the past 6 years." He handed copies to the judge and to Douglas Brennan. I watched Brennan's face as he read. His jaw actually dropped. Judge Morrison flipped through the pages, her expression unchanging. Then she looked at me over her glasses. "Mr. Morgan, you're a managing director at Meridian Capital Partners?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And your annual compensation is," she checked the document, "approximately $1.5 million. Correct. It fluctuates based on performance bonuses, but that's the average over the past 3 years. Isabel made a sound like she'd been punched. Judge Morrison turned to her. "Ms. Chen, did you know about your husband's employment and income?" Isabel looked at Douglas Brennan, who nodded slightly. I knew he worked in finance," she said, "but he always dressed casually, worked from home, never talked about money." "Did you ever ask?" Judge Morrison interrupted. Silence. "Did you ever look at a tax return, a pay stub, a bank statement from his personal account?" "We had separate accounts for personal expenses," Isabel said weakly. "But you had a joint account," the judge said, "which received a $580,000 wire transfer 3 years ago from Mr. Morgan's compensation account to purchase the house that you claim is solely yours." Douglas Brennan stood. "Your Honor, the deed is in my client's name because Mr. Morgan allowed it," Harrison cut in. "The down payment is fully traceable. The mortgage has been paid exclusively from the joint account, funded primarily by Mr. Morgan's direct deposits. We have 6 years of bank records." He submitted another stack of documents. Judge Morrison reviewed them in silence. The courtroom was quiet, except for the rustle of paper. Finally, she looked up. "Mr. Brennan, your client filed for divorce claiming she owns the marital home and her husband has contributed nothing. But it appears her husband paid for the house, pays the mortgage, and earns approximately 4 times her annual income. Would you like to revise your position?" Douglas Brennan looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. "Your Honor, we were not aware of the full financial picture." "That's concerning," Judge Morrison said dryly, "given that you're asking for exclusive occupancy of a home your client didn't pay for." She turned to Harrison. "What else do you have, Mr. Caldwell?" Harrison approached the bench again. "Evidence of adultery, financial misconduct, conversion of marital assets." He submitted Marcus Webb's surveillance photos, the credit card statements, the bank transfers from joint accounts to Isabel's failing business. Judge Morrison went very still as she reviewed them. "Miss Chen," she said quietly, "you've been having an affair?" Isabel's eyes filled with tears. "Your Honor, my marriage has been difficult." "Answer the question." "Yes," she whispered. "And you've been transferring money from joint accounts to your business without your husband's knowledge?" Douglas Brennan tried to object, but Judge Morrison held up her hand. "Ms. Chen, answer." "My business was struggling," Isabel said. "I needed capital." "That's a yes," the judge said. She closed the folder. "Here's my ruling. Temporary exclusive occupancy is granted to Mr. Morgan. Ms. Chen has 48 hours to vacate the marital home. All joint accounts remain frozen pending full financial discovery. This case will proceed to trial, where we'll determine actual asset division based on contribution, misconduct, and marital waste." Douglas Brennan stood. "Your Honor, my client will have nowhere to go. She can go to her boyfriend's place," Judge Morrison said sharply, "since she's been spending marital funds there anyway. We're adjourned." The gavel came down. Isabel burst into tears. I stood up, straightened my suit, and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. The full trial took 8 weeks. Harrison Caldwell dismantled Isabel's case piece by piece. We had Rebecca Torres testify about my employment. Meridian Capital's CFO, impeccable credentials, explaining my compensation structure, my role, my contributions to multi-billion-dollar acquisitions. We had Philip Zhao, my accountant, walk through every financial transaction, the house down payment, the mortgage payments, the joint account crowdfunding, the transfers to Isabel's business that I'd never authorized. We had Marcus Webb present his surveillance evidence, photographs time-stamped and geotagged, hotel records, credit card receipts, a paper trail of an 18-month affair funded entirely with my money. Douglas Brennan tried to argue that I'd been financially manipulative by hiding my income, that I'd deceived Isabel about my earning potential. Harrison destroyed that argument in cross-examination. Mr. Morgan, he asked me on the stand, did you ever lie to your wife about your employment? No. She asked what I did. I said investment analysis. That's accurate. Did you ever prevent her from accessing financial information? No. She had access to our joint account, our tax returns, everything. She never asked to see my personal compensation. Why didn't you tell her the full extent of your income? I looked at Isabel. She was staring at the table, shoulders hunched, because I wanted to know if she could love me for who I am, not what I earn, and because the moment someone knows you have money, they see you differently. I wanted to be seen as Nathan, not as a paycheck. And how did Ms. Chen see you? As a disappointment, as someone beneath her, as pathetic. Harrison submitted text messages, emails, a recording from Marcus Webb where Isabel told Damian Cortez that I was a boring loser she was stuck with until she could afford to leave. The jury looked sick. Judge Morrison's final ruling was delivered on a gray Tuesday morning in November. The house, awarded to me, with Isabel ordered to vacate permanently and compensate me for half the down payment, $290,000. The joint accounts, divided proportionally based on contribution. I received 78%. She received 22%. The business debts, Isabel's sole responsibility, as she'd incurred them without my knowledge or consent. Alimony, denied. The adultery and financial misconduct disqualified her. Attorney's fees, Isabel ordered to pay $87,000 toward my legal costs. Total, I retained approximately $2.1 million in assets and property. Isabel received $240,000 and walked away with a bankrupt business and a ruined reputation. Douglas Brennan tried to argue for an appeal. Judge Morrison denied it. Ms. Chen, the judge said from the bench, you filed for divorce believing your husband was a failure. You attempted to take a house he paid for. You committed adultery and used marital funds to support your affair and your failing business. The law does not reward that behavior. This ruling stands. The gavel came down. Isabel sat frozen in her chair. I stood up, shook Harrison's hand, and walked out of the courthouse into cold November air. My phone buzzed. Text from Rebecca Torres. Board approved your promotion to senior managing director. Congratulations. When you're ready, we should discuss your new compensation package. I smiled, deleted it, and called my brother. Nathan, he answered. How'd it go? I won. Everything? Everything that mattered. 6 months later, I stood in the Westchester house. My house now, legally and morally. I'd had it professionally cleaned, redecorated, turned Isabel's home office into a proper library. The master bedroom had new furniture, new paint, no trace of her. Marcus Webb's final report sat on my desk. After the divorce, Damian Cortez had dumped Isabel within 3 weeks. Apparently, he'd been dating her for the thrill and lost interest once she was actually available and broke. Isabel's boutique real estate firm had filed for bankruptcy. She was working for a larger agency now, on commission only, struggling to rebuild her reputation after word spread about the divorce proceedings. I'd heard she was living in a studio apartment in Queens. My doorbell rang. Dr. Sarah Brennan stood on the porch, bottle of wine in hand, wearing jeans and a sweater that made her look about 10 years younger than her 37 years. We'd met at a Columbia alumni event 4 months ago. She was a pediatric surgeon, brilliant, funny, real. When she'd asked what I did, I'd told her everything. The job, the income, the divorce. I want you to know who I am from the start, I'd said. No secrets. She'd laughed. Good. I make $380,000 a year and own my apartment outright. Now we both know and we can relax. I'd fallen a little bit in love with her right then. Now she kissed me at the door and handed me the wine. This place is gorgeous, she said, walking through the foyer. You really made it yours. Took 6 months, but yeah, it finally feels like home. We settled in the living room with wine and takeout from the Italian place she loved. Can I ask you something? Sarah said. Anything. Do you regret it? Hiding who you were from Isabel? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. Because it showed me exactly who she was. If I'd led with money, I would have spent 6 years wondering if she loved me or my bank account. This way, I know. She loved the idea of you, Sarah said. The successful husband she could show off. When she thought you were just you, she couldn't handle it. And you? She smiled. I like just you. The guy who wears sweatpants on Zoom calls and stress eats Chinese food during acquisitions. That's the real person. The Brioni suits are nice, but they're not why I'm here. I kissed her. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Unknown number. I ignored it. It buzzed again. Sarah nodded toward it. You should check. Might be important. I picked it up. Text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Isabel. New phone. I heard you got promoted. responded. Congratulations. I'm really happy for you. Can we talk? I showed it to Sarah. She read it and snorted. Absolutely not. I deleted the message and blocked the number. Already done, I said. Because the truth was simple. Isabel had 6 years to know me, appreciate me, love me. She'd chosen contempt instead. And when she finally realized what she'd thrown away, it was too late. The house was mine. The career was mine. The life I'd built was mine. And the woman sitting next to me on the couch, laughing at my terrible taste in reality TV, genuinely loved the person I actually was. Not the person I could afford to be. Just me. That was worth more than any settlement, any victory, any vindication. I raised my wine glass. To being seen, I said. Sarah clinked hers against mine. To being seen, she echoed. For exactly who you are. We drank, and somewhere in Queens, in a studio apartment she could barely afford, my ex-wife was learning the cost of underestimating someone. Not because I'd destroyed her, because she destroyed herself the moment she called me pathetic. The truth didn't need my help. It just needed time.